The overtime slip fell out of Lena's purse while I was looking for my truck keys. Just a crumpled piece of paper that landed face up on our kitchen counter, and my entire world tilted sideways. I picked it up without thinking, smoothing out the wrinkles. Valley Fresh Packing Plant, my workplace, our workplace. But the name on the slip wasn't Lena's. Derek Hale, line supervisor. The numbers jumped out at me, 68 hours. Week ending October 14th. My hands went cold. I'd been Derek's floor supervisor for 3 years. I knew his schedule better than my own. The guy worked Tuesday through Friday, 8-hour shifts. Maybe 10 hours during peak season. There was no possible way he'd clocked 68 hours that week. I set the slip down carefully like it might explode. Then I pulled out my phone and opened the production logs I kept for quality control. Tuesday, October 11th through Friday, October 14th. Derek had worked his regular shifts. 4 days. 32 hours total. The difference between 32 and 68 is 36 hours. At time and a half, that's about $900 in fraudulent overtime pay. But that wasn't what made my stomach drop. What made me sick was the handwriting at the bottom of the slip. A little note in pen. Same time Thursday. L. Lena's handwriting. My wife's handwriting. I stood there in our kitchen, the one we'd repainted together last spring, and tried to make the pieces fit some other way. Maybe she was just being friendly. Maybe she was helping him with paperwork. Maybe my phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Running late. Quality audit at Plant 3. Don't wait up. Plant 3 was 40 minutes away. She'd been doing a lot of quality audits lately. A lot of late nights. I looked at the overtime slip again. The date. October 14th. That was last Thursday. The Thursday Lena had come home at midnight, exhausted, saying the audit had run long and then she'd gotten stuck in traffic on Highway 99. I pulled up our bank statements on my phone. 3 deposits in the last 6 months, each around $2,500, with the memo line, bonus, VFP. I'd asked Lena about them. She'd said they were performance incentives for catching contamination issues early. I'd been proud of her. My hands were shaking now. I went to our bedroom and opened Lena's nightstand drawer. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. A pregnancy test box, opened, with one test missing. The date on the receipt stapled to the box. 3 weeks ago. Lena had told me she had the flu 3 weeks ago. Missed 4 days of work. I'd brought her soup and worried about her. I sat on the edge of our bed and tried to breathe. Tried to think. But my brain kept circling back to one thing. Derek Hale had submitted a paternity leave request 2 weeks ago. I'd approved it myself, figuring his girlfriend must be pregnant. I'd even congratulated him. The room felt too small. I went back to the kitchen and did what I always do when I need to think clearly. I started working through problems methodically. Numbers don't lie. Production logs don't lie. I pulled up 6 months of overtime reports for Derek's department. The pattern emerged immediately. Derek was claiming 55-70 hours every single week. But our production output didn't support that kind of labor. If Derek was really working those hours, we should be processing 30% more product. We weren't. I cross-referenced his clock-in times with the production line schedules. Derek was clocking in and out at normal times. 8-hour shifts. So where were all these overtime hours coming from? I opened the employee database and started checking other supervisors in Derek's department. Antonio Villa, another line supervisor. Same pattern. Massive overtime hours, normal clock-in times, production numbers that didn't add up. Then I looked at the workers under Derek's supervision. Maria Gonzalez, Ramon Torres, Rosa Martinez, all showing reduced hours. Some weeks they were only clocked for 20-25 hours, even though I'd seen them on the floor every day, working full shifts. The picture started forming in my head, ugly and clear. Someone was stealing hours from the workers and giving them to the supervisors, clocking workers out early, then using their time cards to generate phantom overtime for management. The workers were losing wages they'd earned. The supervisors were collecting money for hours they'd never worked. And Lena, with her quality control access, could see every employee record in the system. She could modify production reports, adjust timestamps, hide discrepancies that auditors might catch. The affair wasn't just betrayal, it was business. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Lena. Audit's going to run past midnight. Love you. I typed back, love you too. Then I went to my laptop and started downloading every piece of documentation I could access. Payroll records, production logs, time card data, quality control reports. Everything I'd need to prove what I was seeing. Because if this was real, if Derek and Lena and whoever else was involved were systematically stealing from workers, then I wasn't looking at a marriage problem anymore. I was looking at a federal crime. When Lena came home at 1:30 a.m., I was waiting at the kitchen table with 2 cups of coffee and the overtime slip. She saw it immediately. The color drained from her face. Ray, I can explain. Sit down. She sat. Her hands were trembling. Good. Mine had stopped shaking around midnight, once I'd finished documenting everything I could find. How long? I asked. It's not what you think. How long have you been sleeping with Derek Hale? She closed her eyes. 4 months. 4 months. We'd been married for 8 years. Together for 11. 4 months ago, we'd celebrated our anniversary at that Italian place she loved. I'd given her earrings. She'd given me a watch. We'd talked about trying for kids next year. Are you pregnant? Her eyes snapped open. How did you? Is it mine? I don't know. Her voice broke. Ray, I'm sorry, I never meant. Does Derek know? She nodded. He wants me to keep it. He says we can make this work, that he's making good money now and we can… Stop! I pushed the overtime slip across the table. Tell me about Derek's good money. She looked at the slip, then at me, confused. What? Derek's claiming 68 hours that week. He worked 32. Where did the other 36 hours come from? I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to me. I pulled out my phone and showed her the production logs. I've got 6 months of data, Lena. Derek's stealing overtime. So is Antonio Villa. So are half the supervisors in that plant. And you, with your quality control access, have been helping them cover it up. Her face went from confused to pale. Ray, listen. Who's running this? Derek? No, he's just… It's not like that. Then what's it like? She stood up, pacing. You don't understand. Derek said it was just evening things out. The company makes billions. The workers are fine, it's just… The workers are fine? I pulled up another report on my phone. Maria Gonzalez worked 45 hours last week. She was clocked for 23. That's 22 hours of wages she didn't get paid. That's $300 stolen from a woman who makes $15 an hour. The company pays her. The company pays her for 23 hours because someone is clocking her out at 3 p.m. even though she works until 7. Someone is using her employee number to generate phantom overtime hours that get paid to supervisors who aren't even on the floor. Lena sank back into her chair. It's not my fault. Derek said it was already happening when he started. He said everyone does it. He said what? That you could get bonus money if you helped hide the evidence? She didn't answer. That was answer enough. I finished my coffee, which had gone cold. Who else is involved? Ray, please. Lena. Who else? I don't know all the names. Derek handles most of it. There's Antonio. And some guy at Plant 2. And I think Gloria Nash knows. Gloria Nash. Our regional plant manager. The woman who'd given me my supervisor promotion 2 years ago. Who'd promised me I had a real future with Valley Fresh. How much has Derek made from this? I don't know. Maybe $40,000 over the past year? $40,000. Stolen from workers who were making barely above minimum wage. Workers who were feeding families. Workers who were probably scared to complain because… Wait. I pulled up the employee records again. Maria Gonzalez. Ramon Torres. Rosa Martinez. Carlos Delgado. All the workers showing reduced hours. All undocumented workers. Oh my God, I said. Lena looked up. What? They're targeting undocumented workers. People who won't report wage theft because they're afraid of getting deported. People who can't fight back. Derek wouldn't. Derek is stealing from people who have no legal protection, and you've been helping him. She started crying then, but I didn't care. I couldn't care, because I was starting to understand just how big this was. Ray, please. I'll end it with Derek. I'll quit. We can move. Start over somewhere. Where are the workers? What? The workers whose hours are being stolen. Where do they live? She wiped her eyes. Some of them live in that trailer park off Ashland. Some live in the company housing units behind Plant 2. Company housing? Of course. Derek and whoever else was running this scheme had access to workers who were completely dependent on the company. Workers who lived in company housing, who couldn't risk losing their jobs because they'd lose their homes too. This wasn't just overtime fraud. This was exploitation. This was organized crime dressed up in timesheets and payroll reports. I need you to leave, I said. What? Pack a bag. Go stay with your sister. I need to think. Ray, we can fix this. You helped steal wages from people who can barely afford to eat. You falsified quality control reports to hide systematic abuse. You slept with a man who's threatening undocumented workers with deportation if they complain about being robbed. I looked at her, really looked at her, and didn't recognize the person I saw. There's nothing to fix. She left 20 minutes later with a suitcase and tears on her face. I watched her drive away, then went back to my laptop. I had work to do. The next morning, I called in sick to work. First sick day I'd taken in 2 years. Then I drove to the Union Hall on Tulare Street. Maria Santos was the organizer for the Central Valley Agricultural Workers Union. I'd met her exactly once at a labor rights seminar the company had made all supervisors attend. She'd been the speaker. The company had thought she'd talk about cooperation and communication. Instead, she'd spent an hour explaining exactly how companies illegally suppress wages and exploit vulnerable workers. Management had been furious. I'd been impressed. The Union Hall was a converted warehouse with metal folding chairs and a desk made from a door balanced on filing cabinets. Maria was there, working on a laptop that looked older than my marriage. She looked up when I walked in. Ray Brennan, Valley Fresh, right? Supervisor? Yeah. You here to tell me the union needs to be more reasonable because I've had that conversation about 50 times this month. I'm here because I think Valley Fresh is systematically stealing wages from undocumented workers and I need help proving it. That got her attention. She closed her laptop. Sit down. I sat. Then I pulled out my phone and showed her everything I'd found. The overtime discrepancies, the reduced hours for vulnerable workers, the pattern of exploitation across multiple departments. Maria watched the screen, her expression getting harder with each page. When I finished, she said, "How much have they stolen?" "From what I can see, about $45,000 over 6 months, just at Plant 1. But I think this is happening at other facilities too." "Why are you bringing this to me? You could take this to your boss, be the hero, get a promotion." "My boss is sleeping with one of the guys running the scheme, and I think the regional manager is involved." "Your boss is—" She stopped. "Your wife?" "For now." Maria pulled out a yellow legal pad and started taking notes. "Okay, walk me through exactly what you have." I spent the next 2 hours explaining the details. The time card manipulations, the production discrepancies, the targeting of undocumented workers, the company housing angle, everything. When I finished, Maria sat back and looked at me. "This is bigger than you think." "What do you mean?" "I've been tracking wage complaints in the Central Valley for 3 years. Valley Fresh, Pacific Harvest, Golden State Processing, all the big packing plants. Workers keep telling me their hours don't match their paychecks, but they're scared to file formal complaints because of their immigration status." "You think it's all connected?" "I think someone figured out a system. Target vulnerable workers, steal their hours, use their employee numbers to generate phantom overtime for management. Hide everything behind time card errors and payroll adjustments. Make millions while the workers are too scared to complain." "Millions?" Maria pulled out a folder from her desk and spread papers across the table. "Valley Fresh operates 7 facilities in California. If your numbers are accurate, and this scheme is running at even half those facilities, we're looking at maybe $2 million in stolen wages. Maybe more." I stared at the papers. Worker testimonies. Payroll discrepancies. Letters from families who'd had wages withheld. All the pieces were there. They just needed someone to put them together. "What do we do?" I asked. "We build a federal case, Labor Department, FBI, maybe ICE, but only for worker protection, not deportation." She looked at me seriously. "But you need to understand something. Once we start this, there's no going back. Your wife will face charges. So will Derek. So will everyone involved, including your bosses." "Good? You're sure? Because this is your marriage, your career, your whole life at Valley Fresh." I thought about Maria Gonzalez, working 45 hours and getting paid for 23. About Rosa Martinez, pregnant and exhausted from overtime shifts she wasn't even being compensated for. About all the workers who were being exploited because they were vulnerable, because they had no protection, because people like Derek and Lena had decided their labor was worth stealing. "I'm sure," I said. Maria nodded. "Then let's get to work." The next 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I went to work every day and pretended everything was normal. Smiled at Derek in the break room. Approved his timesheets. Had polite conversations with Gloria Nash about production quotas and quality standards. At night, I went home to an empty house and compiled evidence. Production reports, time card data, security footage from the employee parking lot showing workers leaving at 7 p.m. even though their time card said 3 p.m. Everything. Lena tried to call me 14 times. I didn't answer. Her sister called once and told me I was being cruel. I hung up. Maria brought in contacts at the Department of Labor. federal investigators who specialized in wage theft and labor trafficking. They were very interested in what we'd found. "This is good," one of them told me during a meeting at the Union Hall. Her name was Jennifer Park, and she'd been investigating agricultural labor violations for 12 years. "Really good. But we need more. We need direct evidence of coercion. We need proof that workers were threatened or intimidated into accepting reduced wages." "How do I get that?" "You talk to the workers, with Maria there to help translate and establish trust. You ask them what happened." So that's what we did. Maria reached out to workers through the union's network. Quietly. Carefully. We met in church basements and community centers, places where people felt safe. And we listened. Maria Gonzalez told us her supervisor, Derek, had threatened to report her to immigration if she complained about her hours being cut. She'd worked at Valley Fresh for 6 years, had 2 kids in elementary school, was terrified of being separated from her family. Ramon Torres said Antonio Villa had told him the time card errors were just computer problems, but if Ramon made a fuss, the computer might have more problems. Ramon had been supporting his elderly parents. He couldn't afford to lose his job. Rosa Martinez was the one who broke me. 7 months pregnant, dark circles under her eyes, hands that shook when she held her coffee cup. She told us Derek had offered her extra shifts for extra pay. Then, when the paychecks came, there was no extra pay. When she'd asked about it, Derek had smiled and said, "You want me to check your immigration paperwork more carefully?" Rosa had collapsed on the production line 2 weeks ago from exhaustion. The company had sent her home without pay and told her she was overreacting. Maria had to step outside after that interview. When she came back, her eyes were red. "We're ending this." "How?" I asked. "You're going to help us catch them in the act." Jennifer Park and her team spent a week planning the operation. They called it an enforcement action. Simultaneous raids on multiple Valley Fresh facilities. Time to catch everyone involved in the middle of shift changes when the wage theft would be most visible. My job was to help document the timeline and provide access to production records, and to keep Derek and the others from getting suspicious. That meant going back to work like normal. That meant approving Derek's fraudulent timesheets. That meant having lunch with Antonio and listening to him brag about his new truck. That meant sitting through meetings with Gloria Nash while she talked about maximizing efficiency and optimizing labor costs. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Every day, I wanted to walk into Derek's office and punch him in the face. Every time I saw a worker being cheated, I wanted to scream. But Maria kept me focused. "We get one shot at this. If we blow it, they'll destroy evidence. Workers will lose everything. We have to be patient." Patient. Right. On a Wednesday night, 3 weeks after I'd first found that overtime slip, Lena showed up at my house. I opened the door and just looked at her. She'd lost weight, had dark circles under her eyes that matched Rosa's. "Can I come in?" she asked. "No." "Ray, please, I need to talk to you." "Talk." She stood on the porch, hugging herself against the November cold. "I ended it with Derek, 2 weeks ago. He's not who I thought he was." "Really? What gave it away? The wage theft? The threatening pregnant workers? Or the fact that he was sleeping with a married woman?" "All of it." Her voice cracked. "I was so stupid, Ray. I thought he cared about me. I thought the money was just, I don't know, I wasn't thinking. But he's scary when he's angry. He said if I stopped helping him, he'd make sure I got blamed for everything. He said Gloria would protect him and throw me under the bus." He's probably right. I'm terrified. I don't know what to do. I thought about going to the police, but you're part of it, I said. You're not a victim, Lena. You chose this. You falsified reports. You helped steal from people who couldn't fight back. You did this. She was crying now. I know, and I'm so sorry. But I don't know how to fix it. Derek's getting paranoid. He thinks someone's investigating. He's been deleting files from the quality control system. And Gloria, she's planning something, moving money around. She told Derek they might need to restructure operations soon. That got my attention. What kind of restructuring? I don't know. But she mentioned closing Plant 1 and moving production to facilities in Arizona. She said the labor situation here was getting complicated. They were planning to run. Take the money, shut down operations, and disappear before anyone could investigate. When? I asked. Derek said maybe 2 weeks. Gloria's finalizing some kind of deal. 2 weeks. Jennifer Park's enforcement action was scheduled for 10 days from now. Lena, you need to go. Ray, please. Go, now. And don't contact Derek. Don't contact anyone at Valley Fresh. Just go to your sister's and stay there. She looked like she wanted to argue. Then she just nodded and walked back to her car. I watched her drive away, then called Maria. We need to move faster, I said. Jennifer Park was not happy about accelerating the timeline, but she agreed we didn't have much choice. If Gloria was planning to shut down operations and move money offshore, we had to act before she could cover her tracks. The new plan: hit all 4 Valley Fresh facilities simultaneously in 6 days, during peak evening shift when the most workers would be present and the most evidence would be visible. Can you get us into the payroll system? Jennifer asked during our final planning meeting. I can get you into Plant 1 system. I don't have access to the others. That's fine. Once we have one facility's records, we can get warrants for the rest. But we need to make sure Derek and the others don't destroy evidence before we execute the raids. How do we do that? Maria smiled grimly. We give them something else to worry about. The plan was elegant. Maria's union would announce a major press conference about labor violations in the agricultural processing industry. Schedule it for the same day as the raids. Make it look like the union was going public with allegations, forcing Gloria and Derek to focus on damage control instead of covering their tracks. They'll be scrambling to hide evidence, Jennifer said, but they'll be doing it in real time, while we're watching. It'll make the case even stronger. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. on Friday. The raids would start at 6 p.m., when evening shift was fully staffed. I spent the next 6 days in a state of controlled terror. Every time Derek looked at me, I was convinced he knew. Every time Gloria called a meeting, I thought this was it. She'd figured it out. But nothing happened. Derek kept stealing overtime. Antonio kept threatening workers. Gloria kept talking about efficiency and optimization. And I kept documenting everything. On Thursday night, the night before the raids, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What if they got away? What if the evidence wasn't enough? What if workers got deported because of this? My phone buzzed at 3 a.m. Text from Maria. Can't sleep either, but we're doing the right thing. Those workers deserve justice. I texted back, I know, doesn't make it easier. Nothing worthwhile is ever easy. See you tomorrow. Tomorrow. The day everything changed. Friday morning, I went to work like normal. Derek was already there, standing by the time clock, watching workers file in. Hey, Ray, he said. You see the union's doing some press conference today? About labor violations? Yeah, I heard. Load of crap. Maria Santos just wants attention. Gloria's already got our lawyers ready to shut it down. Good. Derek studied me for a second. You okay, man? You been quiet lately. Family stuff. My wife and I are having problems. Sorry to hear that. Women, right? He laughed. Speaking of which, Lena called me yesterday. Said you two were getting divorced. That true? Every muscle in my body went tight. What did she want? Nothing. Just wanted to talk. Sounded upset. He shrugged. I told her I couldn't help her anymore. Gloria's orders. We're keeping things professional now. Tightening operations and all that. Makes sense. Yeah. Hey, you hear Gloria might be shutting down this plant? Moving everything to Arizona? I heard something about that. Should happen in a couple weeks. They're offering transfers to supervisors, though. You interested? Maybe, Derek grinned. Good. We could use reliable guys like you. Guys who know how to keep things running smooth, you know? He was recruiting me, trying to bring me into the operation because they needed supervisors who wouldn't ask questions at the new facilities. I'll think about it, I said. Do that. Could be a big opportunity for you. I walked away before I did something stupid. The morning shift dragged. Every minute felt like an hour. At noon, Maria's press conference started. I watched it on my phone in my office. Maria standing in front of the union hall, surrounded by workers talking about systematic wage theft in the agricultural industry, naming Valley Fresh specifically, calling for federal investigation. My phone started buzzing with alerts. Gloria had called an emergency management meeting. All supervisors, 1 p.m. I went to the conference room. Gloria was already there, pacing like a caged animal. Derek and Antonio were there too, looking worried. This is a PR disaster, Gloria said. The union's making serious allegations. We need to get ahead of this. Ray, you're good with numbers. I need you to pull all our payroll records for the past 6 months. Clean copies. I want to make sure everything looks perfect before any investigators come sniffing around. Clean copies? You know what I mean. Make sure there are no discrepancies, no irregularities. I want those records spotless. She was asking me to help destroy evidence. Right there, in front of witnesses, 6 hours before federal agents were about to raid every Valley Fresh facility in California. I can do that, I said. Good. Derek, Antonio, you two do the same with your department records. I want everything sanitized by end of business today. What about the workers? Antonio asked. Some of them have been complaining. Handle it, Gloria snapped. I don't care how. Just make sure nobody talks to reporters or investigators. Anyone causes problems, fire them. We'll deal with wrongful termination suits later. Derek nodded. What about the housing units? Should we? Not on the phone, not in writing. Handle it quietly. They were going to evict workers from company housing, destroy evidence, threaten anyone who might cooperate with investigators. And I had recorded the entire meeting on my phone. At 3 p.m., I sent the audio file to Jennifer Park with a text. Moving early. They're destroying evidence now. Her response came immediately. Hold tight. We're moving up the timeline. Raids start at 5 p.m. Stay out of the way and stay safe. 2 more hours. I went back to my office and started backing up files to an external drive. If Gloria was deleting payroll records, I needed originals for the investigators. At 4:30 p.m., Derek came to my office. Hey, Gloria wants those clean files. Almost done. Good. He leaned against the doorframe. Hey, question. You been talking to anyone about the business? My heart stopped. What do you mean? Just, anyone asking questions about how we do things here? Investigators, reporters, anyone like that? No. Why? Gloria's paranoid. Thinks someone internal might be feeding information to the union. He watched me carefully. But that's crazy, right? Nobody who works here would betray the company like that. Right. That would be crazy. Derek nodded slowly. Yeah? Crazy. He pushed off the doorframe. Finish those files. Gloria wants them before end of shift. He left. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. At 5:15 p.m., 3 black SUVs pulled into the Valley Fresh parking lot. I watched through my office window as federal agents poured out. Department of Labor investigators, FBI agents, immigration officers with worker protection vests. Jennifer Park was leading the group, holding a stack of warrants. Derek ran past my office, phone to his ear, yelling something about lawyers. Down the hall, I could hear Gloria shouting. I stayed in my office and kept copying files. The agents spread through the facility like a SWAT team, securing records, interviewing workers, photographing time clocks and production logs. Within an hour, they'd locked down the entire plant. Jennifer found me in my office at 6 p.m. Ray Brennan? That's me. I'm going to need you to come with me. We have questions about your role in the operation. I understand. She led me to a conference room they'd commandeered, sat me down across from 2 FBI agents. For the record, one of them said, you're not under arrest. You're here as a witness, but we need to establish exactly what you knew and when you knew it. I told them everything. The overtime slip, the investigation, the worker testimonies, the audio recording from Gloria's meeting. Everything. When I finished, Jennifer looked at the FBI agents. He's clean. He's been cooperating since day one. The agent nodded. Thank you for your cooperation, Mr. Brennan. We'll need you to stay available for further questioning, but you're free to go. I stood up. What happens now? Now? We execute raids on the other 3 facilities, seize all financial records, interview every worker who wants to talk, and we build a case that puts these people away for a very long time. And the workers? The ones who are undocumented? Jennifer smiled. They're protected. Part of our case includes providing legal status to cooperating witnesses. Nobody gets deported for coming forward about wage theft. Good. I left the conference room and walked through the facility. Federal agents were everywhere. Workers were being interviewed, some crying with relief, finally able to tell someone what had been happening. Payroll records were being boxed up. Security footage was being downloaded. In the parking lot, I saw Derek being led to an FBI vehicle in handcuffs. He saw me and shouted something I couldn't hear. Didn't matter. I kept walking. Gloria was next, also in handcuffs, still yelling about lawyers and wrongful prosecution. Antonio was already in another vehicle. I got in my truck and drove home. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of depositions, interviews, and court appearances. The federal investigation expanded to all 7 Valley Fresh facilities across California. The more they dug, the worse it got. Gloria Nash had been running the wage theft operation for 3 years. She'd stolen approximately $2.1 million from workers across all facilities. She'd used threats of deportation, eviction from company housing, and retaliation to keep workers silent. She'd recruited supervisors like Derek and Antonio by offering them cuts of the stolen wages. And she'd gotten sloppy, so confident in her system that she'd stopped hiding her tracks effectively. Every email Jennifer's team seized made the case stronger. Every worker who testified added another charge. Lena cooperated with investigators immediately. Cut a deal. Full testimony in exchange for reduced charges. She told them everything about how Derek had recruited her, how she'd falsified quality control reports, how Gloria had known about the scheme from the beginning. The prosecutors were satisfied with her cooperation. She was charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud and labor law violations. Sentencing was scheduled for 6 months out, but her lawyer said she'd probably get 18 to 24 months in minimum security, eligible for early release with good behavior. Derek got no deal. Faced federal charges for wire fraud, labor trafficking, extortion, and immigration coercion. His trial was set for next year, but his lawyer was already talking about plea agreements. The prosecutors wanted 8 years. They'd probably get it. Antonio pleaded guilty immediately, got 3 years. Gloria fought the charges right up until the moment the jury convicted her on all 47 counts. She got 15 years federal prison. The judge called her operation a systematic exploitation of the most vulnerable members of our society and said she'd shown a callous disregard for human dignity that demands serious punishment. As for me, I cooperated with every investigation, testified at every hearing, helped the Labor Department build their case. Valley Fresh settled with the workers for $2.8 million. The stolen wages plus damages. Rosa Martinez got $47,000 in back wages plus medical coverage for her baby. Maria Gonzalez got $32,000. Every worker who'd been exploited got compensated. The settlement included provisions for legal work permits and a path to citizenship for workers who testified. ICE kept their word. Nobody got deported. Maria Santos called me a week after the settlement was announced. The Department of Labor wants to talk to you. About what? About a job. They need investigators who understand how these operations work from the inside. People who can spot the patterns before they become multi-million-dollar fraud schemes. I'm not sure I'm qualified. Ray, you took down a 3-year, 7-facility wage theft operation. You protected hundreds of vulnerable workers. You built a federal case that put serious criminals in prison. You're more qualified than anyone. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. Yeah, okay. 2 weeks later, I was a federal labor compliance investigator for the Department of Labor's Wage and Hour Division, assigned to the Central Valley region. My job: identify wage theft operations, protect vulnerable workers, and make sure what happened at Valley Fresh never happened again. It wasn't the life I'd planned. It was better. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday morning in March. Lena appeared via video from the county lockup, where she was waiting to be transferred to federal prison. She didn't fight anything, didn't ask for anything, just signed the papers and apologized one more time. I didn't respond. What was there to say? The judge granted the divorce, split our assets 50-50, and that was that. 8 years of marriage, done in 15 minutes. I walked out of the courthouse into bright spring sunshine. Maria was waiting on the steps with 2 cups of coffee. How'd it go? She asked. Quick, clean. Good. She handed me a coffee. You okay? I don't know. Yes? I thought I'd feel worse. You loved who you thought she was, not who she actually was. Big difference. We sat on the courthouse steps and drank coffee in silence for a while. Then Maria said, I've got something for you. She pulled an envelope from her bag and handed it to me. Inside was a card signed by 47 workers, people whose wages I'd helped recover, people whose families I'd helped protect. They wanted you to know what it meant, Maria said. What you did. I read the messages. Thank you for giving me back my dignity. My children will grow up safe because of you. You are a true friend to working people. I had to stop reading because my vision got blurry. They want to meet you, Maria said. Rosa especially. She's planning a baptism for her daughter. Wants you to be the godfather. Seriously? Dead serious. She said you saved her life and her baby's life. In her culture, that makes you family. I thought about Rosa, 7 months pregnant and exhausted, telling me about Derek's threats. I thought about how close she'd come to losing everything. I'd be honored, I said. Maria smiled. Good. The baptism's next month. Be ready for a huge party. These things go all day. We finished our coffee. Then Maria checked her watch. You have that meeting with Jennifer Park at 2, right? Yeah. New case. Agricultural operation in Tulare County. Workers reporting systematic violations. Same pattern as Valley Fresh? Similar. Targeting documented workers this time, but same basic scheme. Stealing hours, threatening retaliation, using fear to keep people quiet. You gonna shut them down? Yes? Good. Maria stood up. Come on, I'll drive you. We can strategize on the way. We walked to her car. She'd upgraded from the ancient sedan to a slightly less ancient sedan and headed north on Highway 99. The same highway Lena had claimed to be stuck on the night everything fell apart. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Park. Ready when you are. This one's going to be big. I texted back. On my way. Maria glanced at me. You happy with the new job? Yeah, I am. Good. Because you're really good at it. The workers trust you. The other investigators respect you. And you've got a gift for seeing patterns other people miss. I just pay attention. That's more than most people do. She turned onto the highway. You know what I think? What? I think you found your calling. Not everyone does. Most people just stumble through life trying to figure out what they're supposed to be doing. But you? You know now. You're supposed to be protecting people who can't protect themselves. I looked out the window at the fields rolling past. Agricultural workers bent over crops, hands moving quickly, faces shadowed by wide hats. People working hard for wages that should be fair, under conditions that should be safe, with protections they should be able to depend on. People I could help. Yeah, I said. I think you're right. Rosa Martinez's daughter was baptized on a Sunday in April at a small Catholic church in Fresno. The ceremony was in Spanish, which I didn't speak, but the meaning was clear enough. New life. New beginnings. Hope for the future. Rosa's baby. Her name was Elena, after Maria Santos, whose middle name she'd borrowed, was tiny and perfect, wrapped in a white gown that had been worn by 3 generations of Martinez women. When the priest handed Elena to me and asked if I would help guide this child in faith and righteousness, I said yes in English, and Rosa whispered the Spanish words I should repeat, and somehow between the 2 languages, we made the promise official. After the ceremony, there was a party that took over Rosa's entire apartment complex. Tables appeared from nowhere, loaded with food. Music started playing. Kids ran around shrieking with joy while adults talked and laughed and watched the baby get passed from person to person like a precious treasure. Maria found me around sunset, standing on the edge of the party with a plate of tamales I was too full to finish. You look happy, she said. I am. Good. She clinked her beer bottle against mine. You deserve it. So do they. I nodded toward Rosa, who was dancing with her husband while her mother held Elena. All of them. They deserve to work hard and get paid fairly and not be scared all the time. That's what we're fighting for. Yeah. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, You know what I heard? What? Department of Labor is talking about creating a new task force dedicated to agricultural labor violations across the Southwest. They want you to lead it. I've only been doing this for 3 months. And you've already closed 2 major cases and recovered $400,000 in stolen wages. You're good at this, Ray. Really good. And the workers need advocates who understand their reality, who've seen what exploitation looks like from the inside. I thought about it. Leading a task force meant more responsibility, more travel, more cases, more workers to protect. Tell them yes, I said. Maria grinned. Already did. Your first briefing is Tuesday. We stood there watching the party, watching families celebrate together, watching Rosa dance with her baby in her arms. And I realized something. I'd lost my marriage, but I'd found something else. Something that mattered more. Purpose. 3 months ago, I'd been standing in my kitchen looking at a crumpled overtime slip, and my world had fallen apart. Now I was standing at a baptism party for a woman I'd helped protect, watching her celebrate life with her family, knowing that my work had made this moment possible. My phone buzzed. Text from Jennifer Park. New case just came in. Processing plant in Bakersfield. 20 workers reporting missing wages. Looks like our pattern. Can you take point Monday? I texted back. Absolutely. Maria saw my expression and laughed. Another case? Yeah. You love this. Yeah, I said. I do. She raised her beer bottle. To finding your calling. To protecting workers. To justice. We drank to that. Then we went back to the party, to the celebration, to the community of people who'd been exploited and silenced and threatened, but who'd fought back and won. And I thought, this is what the rest of my life looks like. Fighting for people who need someone in their corner. Protecting families who deserve dignity and fair treatment. Making sure that what happened at Valley Fresh never happens again to anyone. It wasn't the life I'd planned when I'd married Lena 8 years ago. It wasn't the quiet suburban existence with kids and a white picket fence that I'd imagined. It was better. Because every case I closed meant workers got paid fairly. Every operation I shut down meant families stayed together. Every criminal I helped prosecute meant vulnerable people got protected. That night, after the party wound down, I drove home through Fresno streets, past the packing plants where thousands of people worked hard every day, past the neighborhoods where immigrant families tried to build better lives for their kids, past the Union Hall where Maria was already planning the next worker rights campaign. I pulled into my driveway, my house, not our house anymore, just mine, and sat in the truck for a minute, thinking. 6 months ago, I'd been a supervisor who thought he had his life figured out. Good job. Steady marriage, clear path forward. Then an overtime slip had exposed everything as a lie. The marriage was a fraud. The steady job was built on exploitation. The clear path was leading nowhere good, so I'd blown it all up, destroyed my marriage, lost my career, became a federal witness who cooperated with investigators to take down criminals. And in the wreckage, I'd found something real. I got out of the truck and went inside. Tomorrow, I'd start preparing for the Bakersfield case. Tuesday, I'd take the briefing for the new task force. Next month, I'd be Rosa's daughter's godfather at her first birthday party. This was my life now. Protecting workers. fighting exploitation, making sure vulnerable people had someone watching their backs. And honestly, I couldn't imagine doing anything else. The overtime slip that had fallen from Lena's purse hadn't just exposed her affair with Derek. It hadn't just revealed a $2.1 million fraud operation. It hadn't just destroyed my marriage and changed my career. It had shown me who I was supposed to be. Not a supervisor looking the other way while workers got exploited. Not a husband willing to ignore red flags because it was comfortable. But an advocate, an investigator, someone who gave a damn about fairness and dignity and protecting people who needed protection. I pulled out my phone and looked at Jennifer's text about the Bakersfield case one more time. 20 workers reporting missing wages. Same pattern as Valley Fresh. Criminals exploiting vulnerable people because they thought they could get away with it. Not on my watch. I started reading through the case file she'd sent. Made notes. Identified patterns. Planned my approach. And I smiled, because I knew exactly what I was doing. I was clocking in for my real job. The one that mattered. The one that made waking up every morning worthwhile. Protecting workers, fighting exploitation, making sure justice got served. One case at a time. One family at a time. One life at a time. This was what I was meant to do. And nothing was going to stop me.